All right, with the graphing, again, the first thing I'm going to ask myself on every problem is, can I make the problem easier to work with? So that's the first thing I look for in number 17. Is there anything I can take out of those? And there's not. So when I look at the three different methods, cubes, grouping, or the last chapter with higher powers, this is going to be cubes because of the cube that I see here. So first I'm going to take the cubed root of x cubed and the cubed root of 64, and then using my notes or my shortcuts that will be given to me, I'm going to have my small set of parentheses and my longer set. In the small set, I'll just have x plus 4. And in the longer set of parentheses, it says I should square the x and then subtract these two things multiplied together. And then it says, after adding, I should square the 4. And in the smaller set of parentheses, I can get negative 4. But remember, in the longer set of parentheses, you're only going to get i's every time. And going back to the original problem, my y-intercept is 64. So I'm ready to graph. It's going to be a positive bumpy line. So over here, I can go ahead and put negative 4 and make that be accurate. As far as 64, I'm just going to say that that's here. And now I'm ready to do some type of wavy line. Not too bumpy, just wavy. Okay, and that's number 7. Moving on to number 18, it's not quite set up. This 27 is on the wrong side, so I'm just going to move it to the other side. So when I do move it to the other side, I will be working with x to the 4th minus 6x squared minus 27. And when I start to look at my different options of how to solve it, it's not a cube, it's not factored by grouping, it's just the last chapter with higher powers. So I'm going to set up my x, and a times c puts negative 27 here, and b goes here. And when I look at my factors, I know 9 and 3 will work, and then when I figure out which one's negative, it's going to be negative 9. So I'm going to go ahead and set up my two parentheses. This is a simpler one because, again, it's just x to the 4th. There's no number with the x to the 4th. So I'm going to take my two side parentheses and put them in here, minus 9 and plus 3. And in the last chapter, I would just have x's here. But again, x times x is x squared, and I need x to the 4th. So I'll work with higher powers and just put x squared here. So my factored parentheses end up being x squared minus 9 and x squared plus 3. The x squared plus 3 will result in imaginary numbers because when you do set that equal to 0 and you subtract that 3, you'll end up taking the square root of a negative number, which are going to give me i's. But when I take the x squared minus 9 and set that equal to 0, I'll end up taking the square root of 9, which remember is 3 and negative 3, even though your calculator will only tell you 3. And when I go back to the original problem, which is this in graphing form, my y-intercept is negative 27. So now I'm ready to graph. I have 3, and I have negative 3. And as far as the negative 27, I'm just going to put it down here. And because of the 4th power, it's going to be a u. And just do the best job to make your u look smooth. No bumps here. Okay? And that's number 18. All right, number 19. So the first thing I'm going to look, can I make this problem easier? Can I take anything out of my 4 terms? And I can't, so I'm just going to work with it as is. And I'm going to do this by grouping. So I'm going to group, the first 2. And I'm going to group the second 2. And I'm going to look, what can I take out of the first set of parentheses? And out of the first set of parentheses, I can take an x squared, and I'm left with x plus 1. Which means when I get to these parentheses, I also have to have, sorry, I just realized that. I messed up. Let's rewind a little bit. Not x plus 1, but x plus 3. Because when I go to the second set of parentheses, I also have to have x plus 3. So what am I taking out to get the x plus 3? A negative 1. So my final factored results become my matching pair, x plus 3, and then the stuff on the outside, the x squared minus 1. So as far as my factors go, I'll have x plus 3 and x squared minus 1. And my x-intercepts, the first parentheses will give me negative 3. In the second set of parentheses, again, when I set x squared minus 1 equal to 0, I can add 1 to the other side and take the square root of 1, which is 1 and negative 1. And going back to the original equation, my y-intercept is negative 3, and now I'm ready to graph. Here's negative 3, here's 1, here's negative 1, and then of course I have negative 3 as well. And when I look at the shape, this is supposed to be a bumpy line. And it's going to be bumpier because I have 3 points on the x-axis. But I do know it's positive shaped, so from the far right point it's going up, and from the far left point it's going down. And it's only going through the points, so it's just going to go through, turn, turn, and there's my bumpy line. Okay? All right. Last page to go. Here we go. Problem 20. Again, the first thing I'm going to look at is, can I take something out of the original problem? I can't, but I do see there's 4 terms, so again, I'm going to group. So group the first 2, and then group the second 2. And the first thing I'm going to do is take an x squared out of my first set of parentheses, which leaves me with x plus 6. So when I go to the second set of parentheses, I'm also going to have an x plus 6. And what am I taking out of my second parentheses to get there? That would be negative 4. So my final parentheses become the matching set, x plus 6, and the stuff on the outside, x squared minus 4. So I'm just going to write that up here. And my x-intercepts, the first parentheses, will give me negative 6. The second set of parentheses, again, when I set that equal to 0, I can add 4 to the other side. And when I take the square root of 4, it's 2 and negative 2. And then my y-intercept is negative 24. So going to graph, negative 24 really doesn't fit on here, so I'm just going to put it here. But I can put negative 6, and I can put negative 2 into inaccurate spots. And again, this is supposed to be a bumpy line because of this third power. You can see me circling that. It's not going to bounce off any points. It's only going to go through points. It's going to be positive sloping, so from the far right point it's going up, from the far left point it's going down, and it's just going to go through the points. And there's that graph. All right, looks like we have 2 more to go. Next problem, the first thing I'm going to do is look, again, can I take anything out of them to make them easier to work with? Doesn't happen here. So when I look at my methods, cubes, grouping, or last chapter, it's the last chapter but with higher powers. So setting this one up, a times c, there's my 24, here's my b. So when I'm looking for the side numbers, it's going to be negative 6 and negative 4. And again, this is just a nice plain x to the 4th. So when I set up my parentheses, I can just go straight to minus 6 and minus 4. And in the last chapter, again, we'd put plain x's, but I have x to the 4th, so I need x squareds. Because when I multiply these, I get x to the 4th. And then negative 4x squared and the negative 6x squared I get from those loops would give me the negative 10x squared up here. So I'm going to go ahead and write my factors in to their appropriate spot, x squared minus 6, x squared minus 4. And now I'm ready to set them equal to 0. The square root of 4 is going to be 2 and negative 2. And the square root of 6. All right, and then when I take the x squared minus 6 and set that equal to 0, I will end up taking the square root of 6, which is about 2.4. But again, it's going to be positive 2.4 and negative 2.4. And so these are the numbers that I'm going to graph on my graph. Now 2 and 2.4 and negative 2 and negative 2.4 are really close together. So I'm just going to make this spot 2 and just go a little bit further down and make that 2.4. And then just do the same thing over here, negative 2, and then make this about negative 2.4. And then as far as my y-intercept goes, that will be 24. And that's not going to really fit on here, so I'll just go up here and put 24. And when I go for this shape, this is supposed to be a U, a regular U. So from the far left, it's going up. From the far right, it's going up. And none of the points repeat. The 2's are completely different numbers, and same with the negative 2.4 and the 2.4. So it's only going to go through points, no bouncing. And there you go. It's going to look something like that. And last problem. The last problem, again, what I'm going to do is look and can I take anything out of all of these? And the answer is no, I can't. So since there are 4 terms, what I'm going to do is group them. So I will group the first 2. Sorry about that. So 9x cubed plus 18x squared. And now I'm going to group the last 2, negative 4x and minus 8. And now in the first parentheses, I can take a 9 and an x squared out. And when I do that, I'm left with x plus 2, which again is what I need in the other parentheses. So what am I taking out of here? A negative 4. So my final set of parentheses will be my matching set. And the 9x squared minus 4 on the outside of the parentheses. So I'll put those up here first. And now I'm ready to solve for x. Well, the x plus 2, pretty simple. Get negative 2. Now let's take a look at the 9x squared minus 4. So come down to here, and I'm just going to set this equal to 0. And I'm going to add 4. And then I'm going to divide by 9. So I'll end up taking the square root of 4/9, which I think a lot of you are tempted to use your calculator. But what I can do is just take the square root of 4 and the square root of 9, and I'll get 2/3. And again, I'll get a positive 2/3 and a negative 2/3. If you are more comfortable with typing that into your calculator, feel free. But up here, now I'm going to add 2/3 and negative 2/3. And then my y-intercept is negative 8. So negative 8 I can actually put on here with accuracy. The negative 2/3 I can't, so I'm just going to put negative 2/3 here. And I'm just going to put negative 2 way down here. And then I'll just put to the 2/3 here. Okay? And now when I'm ready to graph this one, I'm going to have a bumpy line. And it's positive. Nothing bounces. It's only going through. From the right, it goes up. From the left, it goes down. There's my positive slope line. And I'm going to curve, curve, and it goes through. And there's your review. So rewind to questions that you didn't quite get. If you still have questions, come up and ask me in class. Thanks.